Amara, a 13-year-old girl with a heart far bigger than her circumstances, trudged down a busy city sidewalk on a freezing winter afternoon. Her coat was thin, her shoes worn and letting in the icy slush beneath her feet. Most people hurried past, heads down, wrapped in thick scarves and warm jackets, minds fixed on getting home. But Amara noticed something that stopped her in her tracks. On a lonely park bench, nearly hidden by the falling snow, sat a small boy. He couldn't have been more than 6. His arms were wrapped tightly around his chest, shivering, wearing only a t-shirt and pants far too thin for the weather. His cheeks were pale, and fear filled his wide, watery eyes. Passers-by glanced but kept walking. Amara didn't. Despite her own discomfort, she stepped closer, her breath visible in the cold air. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. The boy didn't answer. He just looked at her, too cold to speak. Without hesitating, Amara slipped off her coat, her only real layer of warmth, and wrapped it around the boy's trembling shoulders. She sat next to him, placing her arm around him to shield him from the wind, offering what little warmth she had. She didn't know who he was or where he came from. All she saw was someone who needed help. And in that moment, her compassion cut through the cold, reminding the world around her that true kindness doesn't wait for recognition, it simply acts. The snow started to fall harder, soft flakes landing on Amara's shoulders as she knelt in front of the boy. His eyes darted around, filled with fear and confusion. He didn't say a word, just sat there, frozen not only by the cold, but by something deeper, a sense of being completely alone. Amara felt her heart tighten. She could see he was scared, maybe even too scared to speak. Without a second thought, she pulled her arms out of her coat, her only one, and gently draped it around the boy. It was oversized on him, but warm. She tucked it snugly around his body, trying to protect him from the bitter wind. Her fingers were already numb, and the cold bit at her skin instantly, but she didn't flinch. Then, quietly, she sat beside him and wrapped her arm around his small shoulders, drawing him closer to her. The snow settled on her hair. Her lips trembled, but she didn't complain. She didn't ask who he was, where he came from, or why he was alone. None of that mattered right now. "You're safe now," she whispered, her voice steady despite the cold. That simple sentence, spoken with warmth and certainty, was more than words, it was a lifeline. In a world full of noise, it was quiet, selfless compassion that wrapped around the boy like that coat. And in that moment, with no questions asked, Amara gave him something even greater than warmth, she gave him comfort. Just as the snow thickened, the quiet was shattered by the screech of tires. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, gleaming despite the storm. A man jumped out, panic written all over his face. "Luca," he shouted, scanning the park with frantic eyes. The little boy's head shot up, and without a word, he ran from the bench straight into the man's arms. The man dropped to his knees, wrapping the boy in a desperate, protective embrace. Relief flooded his face as he kissed his son's forehead again and again. Then his eyes lifted, and met Amara's. For a moment, he was speechless. His gaze moved from Amara's frostbitten hands to her shivering frame, and finally to the coat now wrapped around his son. Her coat. It was old, worn at the sleeves, clearly not meant for this weather, but it had kept his son warm. It had saved him. The man's own coat was tailored, his shoes untouched by snow, a driver still waiting behind the wheel. But none of it mattered now. He looked at her, eyes brimming. "Where's your coat?" he asked, voice trembling. Amara shrugged slightly, as if it wasn't important. He looked again at the coat on his son. This saved my son's life." In that moment, the line between wealth and poverty vanished. What stood in front of him wasn't a poor girl, it was a hero. And he knew he would never forget the kindness of the stranger who gave everything, without expecting a single thing in return. As the flashing lights of the arriving police and ambulance dimmed in the distance, a small crowd had gathered. Some whispered, some simply watched. The man stood beside his son, still wrapped in Amara's coat, and approached her slowly. His face held the weight of deep gratitude and disbelief. Reaching into his coat, he pulled out a thick envelope. "Please," he said, holding it out to her, "take this. It's the least I can do." Amara looked down at the envelope. It was full of cash, maybe more. Enough to change her life, to buy 100 coats, to ease the burdens she'd quietly carried. But she gently pushed his hand back. "I didn't do it for that," she said, her voice soft but firm. The man blinked, stunned by her response. In his world, problems were solved with money. But this girl, this freezing, coatless girl, had given without expecting anything. That truth hit him harder than the cold ever could. "What's your name?" he asked, almost needing to know the name of someone so rare. She gave a small smile. "Amara." The name lingered in the air, simple yet unforgettable. He looked at her again, really looked, and saw something he hadn't in a long time. Not wealth, not status, but a heart that gave freely, without question. And in that quiet moment, a profound realization took root. Sometimes, the richest hearts wear the poorest clothes. And the greatest acts of kindness come with no price at all. 1 week later, in a quiet corner of the city, Amara sat at a small table doing homework under dim light. The apartment was cold, the walls thin, but her heart remained warm. She hadn't told her mother everything, just that she helped a lost boy. To her, it was nothing special. Just the right thing to do. Then came a knock. Her mother opened the door to find a well-dressed man standing there, holding a thick envelope, not of cash, but of documents. Behind him stood a woman with a gentle smile, and a driver carrying bags of warm clothes, books, and supplies. The man stepped forward. "Is Amara home?" he asked. Amara came to the door, unsure what to expect. He knelt to her eye level and handed her a letter. Inside, it read, "You gave my son more than warmth. You gave him safety. You gave him back to me. Let me give you the future you deserve." It was a scholarship, to the best school in the city. New clothes. Year-round support. Not a reward, but a thank you. Amara's eyes welled up. She hadn't asked for anything, but kindness has a way of finding its way back. And as the man gently said, "The world needs more hearts like yours," Amara realized something powerful. Kindness doesn't go unnoticed. Sometimes, it echoes louder than we can imagine. And sometimes, it opens doors you never even knew existed.